Blastpop here. Today I'm looking at Kasserine by Vance von Borries and published by GMT Games in 2001. This game is a reimagining or a redo of the old game from 3W, Worldwide Wargamers, of Decision at Kasserine. Kasserine was always considered to be sort of a Battle of the Bulge type situation in North Africa in World War II. That classic design was redone by GMT, as I mentioned here, again in 2001. Vance had the opportunity to relook at the game and start redoing. It seemed to be the start of the process where he started redoing games that he had done previously in a more modern format and bringing them up to date with graphics and gameplay and overall bringing them into the 21st century. This box game from GMT includes a 22 by 34 map, 1.5 sheets of counters, which in this case is 420 counters. They're half-inch counters, which by today's standards is considered kind of small, although serviceable. For me, my eyes are getting older, so they're a little more difficult to see. You got the 22 by 34 inch map, a rules book, setup cards, play ready cards, and a 10-sided die. Now, the one thing Vance von Borries is famous for, amongst games that are great gameplay, are his setup cards. Every game has a setup card so that you can find the units and then put them all on the map at the same time. It allows you not to have to hunt and peck for units and then try to put them on the map. It's kind of convenient. Some people like it, others don't. Some games I think it's appropriate for, and other ones less so. But I think in a situation like this where you have a lot of different units with different capabilities and not necessarily that you might not be familiar with, it helps to find those units and need gameplay, at least for the first time you set up the game. There are several scenarios which are all basically derivatives of the campaign. The campaign game isn't difficult by any stretch of the imagination. I had played this game years ago, but not with this particular copy. I had acquired this copy through the Pay It Forward Facebook page, and I won it. And I had gotten rid of my copy years ago and regretted it, so I now have a fresh new copy. Here is the rules book. There's some illustrations, black and white. Pretty much standard war game procedures. Nothing out of the ordinary that an experienced wargamer couldn't easily grasp and understand. Gameplay scenario book-wise in terms of the number of pages of rules, minus the front cover, 20 pages of rules. Not much in the way of illustrations, at least in the rules book. So it is fairly dense. It does have examples highlighted in gray. An older style of production from GMT Games, but that doesn't change the gameplay. Sheet of markers and some units. And on the back of that counter sheet, these have the white core instead of the brown core. With the advances of printing technology and die cutting, The brown core nowadays is less problematic, so they've been getting back to it because they can make them thicker than the white core. People will complain that this is too thin, but in high stack situations, especially if you clip the counters, everything is nice and neat. I tend to like thinner counters myself, just because the games I tend to play tend to be higher density. So, and I use tweezers to maneuver my units, so it's not difficult to handle the thinness of the counters. Player aid cards. This is an 11 by 17 fold out. Vance von Borries seems to like to have a mobile and assault combat results table depending on either how far you move before your attack or how much time you spend preparing your attack. And mobile tends to be more retreats. Assault tends to dislodge the enemy and inflict losses in most of these games. And then you have a lot of handy-dandy information that you need to keep your head out of the rule book. And then you have all your terrain. So almost all the important charts you have are on this player aid card. As I mentioned, setup cards. Help the player along. Hopefully spending more time playing the game instead of just setting it up. And because there's a lot of hex setups, that can be problematic in getting a game done as expeditiously as you hope. I'd much rather spend 10 or 15 minutes setting up a game than 3/4 of an hour. How to read your units, what all those little numbers mean. This is all in thin cardstock. Not the old thick style oak tag, so to speak, that sometimes Avalon Hill used to use with their charts and tables. One-sided. Group charts, again one-sided. More setup cards. So in Kasserine here, there's an awful lot of componentry. All look fairly similar. And then finally, a second copy of the fold-out 11 by 17 player aid chart. As far as the map is concerned, very nicely done. Precise. There's no question as to what a hex is. Once the Germans start their attack from the south here, they tend to move up into these passes and ridge lines, trying to break through and defeat the Allied army and send it packing. So the Germans need to make it through the passes and break through the passes. Very nicely done. Desert style colors. And then the namesake for the game, Kasserine. This game should be worth picking up to a veteran wargamer. It's kind of fallen off the radar over the years, as other titles have come and gone since. But it does come highly recommended, as does all Vance von Borries games. Again, this is published by GMT in 2001. This has been a look at the game of Kasserine. This has been Blastpop. Bye.